Hi, my name is Chirag Gajjar and I head Subnational Climate Action Work at WRI India. India is urbanizing at a rapid pace. Its urban population grew by 30% to 378 million between 2001 and 2011, and by 2030 it is projected to reach 590 million. Delhi is expected to become the world's most populous city by 2028, displacing Tokyo. Cities are major consumers of resources, and the pressure on resources is likely to get exacerbated as future growth will be concentrated in cities. Cities are projected to contribute 70 to 75% to the GDP by 2030. People are migrating to urban centers in search for better job opportunities and enhanced quality of life. Such a growth is accompanied by several challenges, such as resource constraints, access to reliable energy, and air quality. And the poor and vulnerable are the ones facing disproportionate impacts. These constraints affect the smooth functioning and growth of cities and have a direct impact on the buildings and construction sector, along with sectors such as energy, transport, and waste. Indian real estate sector witnessed high growth in the recent times with rise in demand for office as well as residential space. In fact, it is poised to become world's third largest construction market by 2025 and will contribute 13% to India's GDP. There is also a policy push from the government to boost the sector through the Smart Cities Mission and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. This is an opportunity for real estate sector to contribute to climate smart urban development using Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs Climate Smart Cities Assessment Framework. Houses built under PMAYU will have a lifespan of 40 to 60 years, hence decisions taken now will have an impact on thermal comfort, energy use, and GHG emissions over the lifetime of the buildings. The consequences of this growth will be enormous. Globally, the sector is the largest consumer of resources, requiring about 30 to 40% of all global material flows. In India, the sector contributed to approximately 25% to India's carbon emissions in 2016. And if the current energy intensive practices continue, the energy related CO2 emissions from the sector would increase by 82% in 2050 as against the 2021 levels. The sector also contributes nearly 28% to the national average of pollution and uses 12% of the country's fresh water. The sector has significant social and environmental impacts as a result of extraction of input materials. Such growth and consequences are likely to increase as urban migration continues, middle class expands, leading to home investments and nuclear families in cities. Additionally, there is an increasing focus on public housing, which will convert unorganized informal settlements into permanent housing. Consequently, residential floor space growth in urban areas will far outpace growth in rural areas, and their share is expected to grow from 45% in 2019 to almost 60% by 2040. The growth will not be limited to the floor space. The energy use is also expected to grow significantly as more homes translates into more appliances. Rise in appliance ownership will lead to growth in energy demand, and with hot and humid weather conditions, air conditioners will see faster growth than any other appliance and will be the single largest driver of energy demand growth in buildings. Building and construction sector has an opportunity to rethink its trajectory and choose a low carbon pathway which accounts for climate risk and is climate responsive. Transitioning towards a net zero building and construction sector is of paramount importance to achieve growth that is aligned to India's climate goals. Indian businesses are uniquely positioned to influence the value chain to adopt low carbon pathway. The question is how it can be achieved. The building and construction sector is complex, diverse, and fragmented value chain with many steps along the product life cycle. It includes stakeholders such as architects, energy modelers, developers, contractors, property owners, and occupiers, among others. The transition will require the coming together of the stakeholders across the value chain to decarbonize the sector through a significant reduction in material and energy demand, energy efficiency, and the adoption of renewable energy. The sector has largely focused on piecemeal solutions. However, there is a need for a holistic approach to mitigate the emissions across the life cycle of the buildings by having targets that are aligned to climate science. WRI India, along with its partners, the Alliance for an Energy Efficient Economy, EcoColab, and Mahindra Life Spaces, engaged with experts in the sector to understand barriers and identify priority actions across the value chain that can put the sector on a net zero pathway. The key barriers identified were the lack of implementation of low carbon strategies, including existing guidelines of energy efficiency, data on embodied emissions of various materials, pilot demonstrations or case studies, as well as lack of consumer awareness and capacities across stakeholder groups such as architects, contractors, and site engineers. Some technological and financial barriers were also identified with respect to building energy and management systems and retrofitting and renovation. Through stakeholder consultations, we identified several areas to act upon. First, adopting science based emission reduction targets and climate responsive design strategies. Second, mainstreaming climate aligned building codes and standards as well as low carbon materials. And third, improving operational efficiency and enabling the low carbon pathway through policy support. Bridging the gaps through policy action, capacity building, technological advancements, coupled with improved economic feasibility and rapid scaling up of solutions, is vital to achieving this transition. Join the movement by committing to actions that can help put the building and construction sector on a low carbon pathway.